Hi students, welcome to editorial discussion of Vijayata IAS Academy. In this video, we take an editorial which is given in the Hindu newspaper about India-UAE agreement. This news is there for last 1 week. Here, India and UAE both signed a free trade agreement and comprehensive economic partnership agreement. In the last 1 week, you would have seen news items like this: trade pact to boost jewelry exports to UAE, expect FTA with the UAE in force by May. So these are the issues related to India and UAE. So in that context, Hindu also has given editorial column on this CEPA. This content you can use in questions like: what are the salient features of India-UAE CEPA Trade Pact? How will it boost the trade relations between two countries? So you can think of a question in these lines and you can use the contents given in this editorial. Some of the parts you can use in this kind of question. Prelims point of view, you can think about West Asian geography and Gulf Cooperation Council, and especially the geographic related aspects like the straits, Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz. So those things are important for prelims point of view. So here it is United Arab Emirates UAE is located, and here India is located. Now there is a free trade agreement between these two countries, and it's also called as Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Now these are the geographic locations of these two countries. Now let us see what is given in the editorial. First, it is saying about UAE agreement, India-UAE agreement. It is bringing RCEP also in the context. It is saying that in 2019, India pulled out of RCEP in the last minute. After more than 2 years, India signed a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with United Arab Emirates UAE. So this is even in 2019 there was an editorial in Hindu itself, safe for now on India opting out of RCEP. So after 2 years, now once again India is in news related to trade agreements. It's signed with UAE. So the heading also the Hindu has given turning to trade winds. Here you can see the trade wind, the term they would have used probably based on monsoon winds. Trade winds, monsoon winds. Historically, monsoon winds favor the trade relations between India and the Gulf region. If you go back to the ancient times also, during Harappan civilization itself, India and this particular region had trade relations. Now what it is saying, the free trade pact is a tacit acknowledgement that India needs to strengthen its trade ties with existing partners by lowering tariff walls and obtaining more favorable access for its exports in order to boost trade and economic output. So it is comparing with RCEP. RCEP is a multilateral agreement. So now by signing CEPA with an individual country, India is acknowledging the need of strengthening such trade pacts with existing partners. India and UAE are the trade partners for a very long time. So with existing partners, India is trying to have more leverage and it is trying to have more strong trade relationship by lowering tariff walls. And it is bringing about COVID impact also. Because of COVID, almost entire world came to standstill. It depressed domestic consumption and demand. It dragged down the overall economic growth of individual countries. Nations imposed tight travel and entry restrictions in a bid to protect their populations. So entire world now suffered due to COVID. India also sought to promote Atmanirbhar or self-reliance during COVID time period, because entire world now they tried to promote the internal economy by restricting the entry of foreign nationals because of contagious effect of COVID virus. However, after 2 years now COVID situation is coming under control. Now once again the exports and relations among countries are growing. So once again this editorial is saying that exports on the other hand have rebounded strongly with growth outpacing even the pre-pandemic levels. So now once again, exports are growing even more than pre-pandemic levels. In this backdrop, government's renewed push to negotiate its bilateral free trade agreement is a welcome change in tact and signals that India is keener to strengthen trade ties with individual partner countries on equitable terms. So it is a rather than be tied into multilateral pacts that do not necessarily address its key concerns. Instead of going into the multilateral agreements like RCEP, now India is favoring to have trade ties with individual countries on equal terms. So this is what it is saying. India-UAE trade relations, if we take the historical background or the existing trend between India and UAE, UAE is India's third largest trading partner. After USA and China, India's third largest trading partner is UAE, with bilateral trade is at $59 billion. UAE supplied India mostly crude oil with 10.9 billion worth of crude oil in that period, accounts New Delhi as its second largest trading partner. UAE is the third largest trading partner for India. If you take UAE, India is the second largest trading partner. Two partners now aim to leverage the free trade deal to lift bilateral merchandise trade to $100 billion. So now from $59 billion to both are now trying to increase it to $100 billion. Now both countries are on equal terms. Both countries favor the goods exports on each side. Now India will get boost in especially textile and jewelry sectors because these sectors are going to benefit from a zero duty regime. So zero duty, they can export the UAE market. Textile and jewelry sectors can get a lot of boost, and two-way investment flow also can take place. UAE can invest in Indian sectors and India also can invest in UAE. Remittances, it is one of the major source of India's forex reserves, a major source of foreign exchange earnings for India given the large Indian workforce in the UAE. UAE, the overall population is around 1 crore population. Out of 1 crore of UAE population, around 30 lakh people are from India only. That means 30% of UAE population is Indian population. So most of the India's forex reserves are coming from UAE and other Gulf region countries. So now because of this free trade agreement, now more interaction will take place, more people's movement, goods movement, investment movement. So all this kind of ecosystem will increase further, will strengthen the boost between UAE and India. So this is about the CEPA, India-UAE Free Trade Agreement. However, this is what explained in editorial in today's Hindu editorial. Now you read this particular context with other angles as well. Now CEPA and free trade is only economic dimension. In economic dimension, now what kind of advantage India and UAE benefit out of this free trade agreement? Now you link with other angles as well. So this kind of strong relationship in economics, if two countries have strong economic ties, now they will have strong political ties also, strategic agreements they can have, and they can in international forums also they jointly work together for common goals. So now in recent trends also in UAE is supporting India's stand on various issues. Generally, traditionally UAE favors Pakistan, but now because of growing ties between India and UAE, the strong bonds favoring India's cause. In recent years, whatever policy India has taken towards Jammu and Kashmir, even UAE also supported India's decision. So that is how, and India strongly favored United Nations Security Council membership of UAE also, and like that. And also this region is a volatile region. Now you can see terrorist attacks used to take place. 2008 Mumbai terror attacks and terrorist activities may take place around this particular region, and this region is very sensitive. In that context, now having a good friend in this area is always beneficial for both countries. So strategically and security wise also, having strong ties with UAE is very important. So domestic policy and as well as external policy, having a friend like UAE will always help. And also India is having large Muslim population. So the sentiments between UAE and India also can strengthen because of the growing economic ties between two countries. So you can link this particular issue with various other dimensions as well. So this is about this editorial. Thank you.